Welcome to this complete beginner's guide to video editing in Filmora X from Wondershare, also known as Filmora 10, where in the next half an hour or so, I will teach you everything you need to know to start making professional videos and feel confident while doing it. It's in-depth, covers all the basics, and takes you from zero to hero in no time, so you won't need any other tutorials. I'm Edward Stinger from videoplasty.com, the place where you can get amazing stock animation to use in Filmora, and let's get started with the tutorial. So when you first open up Filmora X, or also known as Filmora 10, but X has a bit of a different ring to it, you can obviously open a project saved somewhere on your computer. You can open one of the recent projects and you're going to see a list of all your recent projects saved here. Or most probably you will just start a new project by clicking on this button. And when you start a new project, you also have to select the project aspect ratio. So here we have 16:9 widescreen, which is pretty much all of the YouTube videos that you see. It's the most standard format out there. 1:1, which is all the square videos that you see on Instagram. 9:16 portrait, which is still for social media, but it's those very tall vertical videos, for example. 4:3 called standard, but honestly nobody really uses this anymore. And then there's 21:9, which is cinematic. It's basically when you have an ultra wide screen sort of video with those black bars on top and on the bottom. But most probably you're gonna go with 16:9, which is the most standard one. Alright, so if this is the first time you open up a video editing software, it might look a little bit confusing at first, but it doesn't have to be. So here on the top left, we have an area where you can open a bunch of different panels, right? In this case, we have the media bin open, then we can navigate audio, titles, transitions, effects, elements, and split screen. So this is a bit of a mixed area, but it's very, very useful. Here on the top right, we have the video preview, and this is where we can preview the project that we're editing and see what we edited so far. And here on the bottom, we have what is called a timeline. And it's currently empty and you cannot really figure out exactly what it does, but this is where all the magic happens, right? This is where we do the video editing, and we're gonna get to that in a minute. So in order to start editing, we will have to import some media files into Filmora. And to do that, make sure you have the media tab open here, and you can either click this button or you can click this button to navigate somewhere on your computer. Or what I actually prefer to do myself, and I know a lot of people do the exact same thing, is I have the files ready here in a folder, and then you just select the files. In this case, there's just going to be one video, and you drag and drop it here. Right, so you want to do that for all the video files, music files, images, anything like that that you are going to use in your project. Just make sure to import them to the Filmora media bin here. After that, you have to import it from the media bin to the timeline to start editing and using that file. So to do that, again, very simple, just drag and drop it here and move it all the way to the beginning. And now we have this notification that says our project settings are a little bit different than the media file that we're importing. So the project settings are full HD 30 frames per second, but the media is full HD 25 frames per second. And in this case, it asks you if you want to change the settings, and yes, you want to match to media, so click on that button. Alright, now let's look at the timeline and all the different things we can do on it. So this is going to be a track, this is a video track, and this one here on the bottom is going to be a music track. And as you can see, there's like a preview here of what we have. Like on the top, you can see the video preview, and on the bottom is a waveform for the audio. One of the most useful tools on the timeline is the playhead. It's this thing right here that you can basically move around, and it's a tool that allows you to select a specific point in time on the timeline. And as you can see, the video preview updates as well to show you exactly where you are. Now you also have a couple more settings for the timeline here on the right. So If you click on this one, for example, it's going to open up the audio inspector, which is where you can see the audio levels of your edit and to see if you're peaking or if you're not loud enough. Then actually what's very useful is you have this timeline scale or zoom in or zoom out, right? So if you want to do a precise edit on the timeline, you can zoom in right here, or you can zoom out right here. Because for example, as you can see, the timeline starts here on the left all the way at 0 seconds, goes to 15, 30 seconds, 45, all the way to as much as you want, right? So if you want to edit a 1 hour long film, you can definitely do that. But in most cases, you're probably going to edit a short video. And for that, you might want to zoom in a little bit like this. And when you're zoomed in, you can, of course, use this to scroll to the right or to the left. But what I actually prefer to do is Filmora has this button right here, which is zoom to fit timeline. And it's basically gonna zoom in as much as it can so you don't have to scroll, and it fits the entire timeline perfectly. Next, on the buttons right here, we have the audio mixer. I'm just gonna quickly open it, but this is pretty advanced. I'm not gonna get into it. Basically, this allows you to manually control the volume of each of your different tracks. But this is a little bit more advanced, but just in case, so you know it's there if you need it. All right, next is this button that right here, which is actually very useful to record a voiceover. And of course, you can select the device that you're using, either my AirPods or my Blue Yeti microphone, or even the laptop's microphone over there. And when you're ready, just press this button to start recording, and it will start recording at the exact position of your playhead. So this is useful if you want to do a narration or anything like that on top of your edit. Next, we have what is called a marker, right? So to add a marker, just click that button. And if you go here, you can see we have a little green thing right here. So if we double click on it, I can give it a name and say amazing cut goes here, and also change the color to blue, for example. Right, so this is very useful in case you want to remember a very specific point in time on your timeline that you want to come back to later. At this case, if I put my mouse on top of it, it's going to say amazing cut goes here. You don't have to use it. I personally actually don't really use those myself, but it's very useful for a lot of people. And then the last button that we cannot use right now is the render preview. Right, so when you start editing and you have a bunch of different clips, effects, and all that sort of thing on your timeline, maybe your computer is going to have a bit of a difficult time to actually preview everything in real time. And it's going to take a little bit of time to calculate and process everything, and then you can actually preview it properly, right? So when you want to do that and you're having a hard time, just use render preview. All right, talking about preview. So let's look at the settings and what we can do here on the preview window. Obviously, we can use those buttons to
way to the end.
Play the video or stop it by moving all the way to the beginning. And you can also use the space bar, for example, to start playing and pause the video. I personally use the space bar all the time for that. I never actually use those controls here. And if we move here on the right, we can click on this button to have a full screen preview. We can use this button to control the volume output. Then we have this other button to take a screenshot. It's actually called a snapshot in Filmora. Basically, it just saves a JPEG image of this particular point in time on the timeline. So basically wherever the playhead is. Next, we have this for some advanced settings that I'm not going to get into right now. But one of the most useful ones from those controls here is the video preview quality, so the playback quality. And this obviously depends on the complexity of your project and on how powerful your computer is, right? And if you're having a difficult time playing this back in real time, you can go from full quality here, right? You can go to half of the quality for the preview. I mean, right now you cannot really see the difference, but it actually only takes half of the power to process, which is very easy. And if that lags as well, then you can change it to even 25% of the quality, or even 1/8. But at 1/8, you're gonna start seeing quite a bunch of artifacts like this. you know, it's definitely going to play back fine at that quality, but it's not going to be very, very accurate. But it's still useful in case you want to see, you know, how the music flows, how the cuts work, and all those sorts of things, right? Personally, I usually go with 50% quality just for the sake of it, but it doesn't really matter, you know. I've worked with 25% quality as well, and you know, it's very easy to work with that also. So if your edit is lagging, don't worry at all. Just go with whatever quality your computer can process, and you're going to be able to do a cool video no matter what. And of course, this is just for the preview, right? When you export, it's going to obviously export at the full quality, so that's not a problem. All right, now let's switch to some editing. And one of the most important things in editing is going to be trimming the video, right? So if you look here on the waveform of me talking, you're going to see the waveform, right? So whenever it goes like this, I'm talking, and for example, here at the end where it's a little bit more flat, that's where I'm not talking at all, right? And say, for example, I want to remove this part here on the right at the end because it's just silence. And to do that, you just grab it like this. Actually, I'm just going to zoom in a little bit because it's hard to see. So you just move your cursor here on the end, and it's going to transform into this, right? So when it does that, you can just drag it like this. And when I release it now, it's basically going to remove that content completely, right? So it kind of like deletes it, right? And now, for example, if I go, I can also do this exact same thing in the beginning, right? Just grab it like this and then remove it. Because as you can see, that first part is just completely flat. I don't say absolutely anything. But notice what happens when I do it in the beginning, right? Filmora automatically had this entire clip jump to the beginning, so there's no empty space, right? So it just moved it all the way to the 0 second. But it removed that part and then like move the entire clip to the left, right? But if I want to keep that, you can just obviously move it like this. And now I have this part right here, which is empty. All right, next, let's have a quick look at those buttons right here from the timeline. So this one is to undo a action like this, right? Or you can redo it like that. I can use this button right here to delete a file that's selected on the timeline, but then it just disappeared and I have nothing left. So I'm just gonna undo that. Another one that's actually very useful is this scissor right here called a split tool. So wherever I have my playhead and use this, it's basically going to split this clip into 2 separate clips. So I can either use this, or you can also use this scissor right here, right? So if I put it here and then click on it, now it basically created 2 different clips that I can manipulate separately like this. And this is very, very useful. For example, if you want to either select this and remove it, either by clicking this button or backspace, or maybe it makes more sense to move this part all the way here at the end because that's how you want to cut and edit your video, and it just makes more sense narratively like that. Next, I want to show you the crop tool right here. So the crop tool is actually very simple. You can just crop the rest of the image, and it's more or less like a zoom in, right? And then hit OK. And as you can see, now I have this close-up of my face. I'm just going to undo because now I want to show you another thing using the exact same tool, but it's called pan and zoom, right? So this red rectangle is going to be the starting position, and I can just start at full screen, or maybe if I want, I can start at a different point like this. But for the sake of this one, I'm just going to start full screen. And then you can also switch to the end position and tell it where I want to pan and zoom. So it's going to start from this big red rectangle and end up on the small green one like that. And now if I just scroll for the timeline, you see it starts all the way in the beginning like that and then slowly zooms in like that. It's not very useful, I think, for a talking head video, but if you have any other sort of, I don't know, B-roll, or you want to highlight some specific thing on your edit, then it's actually very, very useful. Next, let's have a quick look at this one right here to control the speed of your media. So if I have this clip selected and I go to the speed one, to the speed tool, I can either make it a little bit slower, in which case at 50% the speed, it's basically going to take double the time, right? So it extends the whole thing. This is very useful if you do, I don't know, like some skateboarding trick or, you know, some sort of, I don't know, action thing that you want to show in slow motion. Or maybe you want to have some fast forward. And of course you can do 2x, 4x and so on. And obviously at 2x is just going to take half the time it would take at normal speed. And if you don't like that, you can just, of course, go back and hit normal. And now you're back to the normal speed. Next, we have what is called the advanced color tuning. And this is where you can do some interesting color correction. Because Filmora has a bunch of different presets from some very famous films like the James Bond series, Batman films, you know, Game of Thrones and things like that, Harry Potter. You just have to go through each one of them and see which one actually fits your particular footage, the lighting setup and all that kind of thing. And when you find one that you like, just hit OK, and it just applies that color correction to your media. There are a bunch of other ones here, but they're a little bit more advanced, right? We have the green screen here, in case you record yourself against the green screen and you want to remove the background. I'm not going to go into it because it's pretty advanced, but you can do that by clicking this button right here and then working with those chroma key green screen settings here. Then just so you know, there's some motion tracking available as well, but this is again very advanced, and some, you know, custom animation with keyframes, but again, pretty advanced. Now let's have a look at this last button right here, which is basically opening up all the video and audio properties, right? Which is a little bit more advanced, but very useful to have. So if you click on it, it's going to take you to this thing right here. And you have a bunch of different ones. So transform is actually the most useful one. Say, for example, you want to rotate a video, you can do that. If you want to zoom in, you can do that as well, or zoom out. And if you want to reset it, just click this button right here to reset that particular setting. It also allows you to flip a video like this, or flip it like this as well. And you can also change the positioning of your video like this. And how this is going to be useful, for example, is maybe you want to use, for example, let's move this clip on top. And let's say we want to have a bit of a picture-in-picture effect, right? So I'm going to select the clip on top and use the scale to make it a little bit smaller like this. And then using the positioning, I'm going to move this on the top right of my current video. Then if you go to compositing, you can change the opacity as well. Maybe you want to make it a little bit transparent, or just make it completely disappear like that. And there's a bunch of, as I said, more advanced stuff as well, like motion tracking and stabilization. You can use stabilization if you have shaky handheld footage filmed with your phone or a handheld camera. Just use those buttons right here to analyze, and then change the settings if you don't like them, and analyze the video again to adjust for the stabilization. Another interesting one that you might find useful is the drop shadow. So if I open the drop shadow, for example, and hit this button to turn it on, right now you cannot really see anything because the shadow is black and this video is quite dark. But let's say, for example, I change the shadow to white. And as you can see, there's a little bit of a shadow, which, you know, white shadow doesn't look that good, but it definitely makes this video stand out. And I actually use drop shadow quite a lot for text and other elements like that. Next, I want us to have a quick look at the audio properties. So you can control the overall volume of this clip over here. Or you can add a bit of a fade in by using those sliders. So now if you look actually here on this clip, you can see the audio has a fade in from nothing all the way to 100% here. Or you can also do it manually directly on the clip here on the timeline by grabbing it at the end of the waveform, of the audio waveform, and just dragging here like this. And another thing that might be useful in terms of audio is using this thing right here called denoise. So you can turn this on to remove the background noise. And you can select the weak setting, mid or strong, but keep in mind, you have to test this out to see, because the stronger you go, the more you tend to lose some of the audio quality that you have. All right, next let's have a look at this color panel right here. And I'm gonna resize this. I don't know why it's so small. Anyway, yeah. So for color correction, this is pretty advanced territory, but I'm just showing you what is possible, right? So, for example, now let's select actually the clip on the bottom, right? The big one. We can either go and do a auto color correction like this, and Filmora is gonna apply whatever it thinks works the best. In this case, it's kind of flat. I'm not a big fan, but you know, it's definitely there if you want to check it out. Next is the white balance, which is basically telling the software which is the whitest point in your composition to adjust for the color temperature. You can also adjust that manually by making it a little bit warmer like this, or a little bit colder like this, right? You usually just want to do a tiny little bit, not like quite a lot. If you have to, you can also apply a little bit of a tint like this, but this goes pretty crazy. So, you know, just use a tiny little bit if you have to. Next, some really basic ones are the contrast, obviously to make it more contrasting or like more flat like this. Saturation to remove some of those colors and make it more flat, or just bring out some of the colors. And of course, brightness to really brighten up that image and blow it up completely, or just, you know, make it darker. One thing that I haven't really touched upon, and it's very important to understand, is the order of the tracks here on the timeline, right? So for video, the track that's on top is gonna have priority, right? So right now we have this on top, but because it doesn't fill up the full screen, it reveals what's underneath it, in this case, this track right here. But if we moved this other one on top, for example, it's gonna cover the smaller one because this track right here covers the full screen. So again, now I move this back underneath, and all of a sudden I can see this one because this is the one on top and it's a little bit smaller and reveals what's under it. Now let's have a quick look at what Filmora offers in terms of audio, titles, transition effects, elements, and split screen. So if you go to audio, Filmora has a bunch of useful assets that you can use directly in your project. Some royalty-free music tracks. You know, you can preview them by double clicking and it's going to start playing. Keep in mind, this is just an image that is not actually in the music. It's just for, you know, a nice little preview. And let's say I want to use this this audio track, and then you can just drag and drop it here on the timeline like this and use it just like that in your project. And in case the music is too loud, then obviously you wanna be able to hear the voiceover in the voice in your edit. You can control the volume by using this cursor right here. You can see there's a line, and if you just drag it lower like this, it's gonna make the volume lower. Next, we can have a quick look at titles. There's a bunch of different ones already animated and good to go, right? So let's say we want to use a title screen here in the beginning. So I'm just gonna drag and drop it here. And all of this is easy to edit, right? To do that, you just double click on the title and you have a lot of different controls here, like text style, for example. Let's go with this. And you can edit the text here and say Filmora X. And then for the other text, you can double click on it on the screen and say by videoplasty.com, right? And then just click OK. Of course, there's like a bunch of different ones like font size, positioning, a lot of different other controls that you can just play around with as you need. So let's see how it looks. Yeah, that was actually super easy, right? And now let's assume you want to add a lower third as well. You can go here because they're all organized in different categories. And I'm just gonna go like a very simple one. And as before, you just drag and drop it here. Move this out of the way, put it here. And same way as before, if I want to edit this, I just double click on it and say, my name is Edward Stenga. But now it doesn't is not in the right position. So then I can scroll here on the settings and just use the position to adjust it a little bit like this. There you go. Very, very simple. And for example, you will notice if I play it back here. Alright, like the video of me speaking just appears out of the blue and the titles just randomly disappear, which is why we want to use something called transitions. And of course, Filmora has a bunch of different useful ones that you can preview by double clicking on them. Alright, personally, I'm just a big fan of simple transitions like a fade. Or like a dissolve, right? So let's just use dissolve. In this case, to import a transition, you just drag and drop it like here, either at the end or the beginning of a clip. So I'm gonna use one here for the titles, and I'm gonna use a dissolve as well for the video of me talking. And now if I play it back, it's a nice little dissolve, which is very, very cool. All right, next, let's have a look at effects. And again, those are pretty crazy and pretty advanced. So I suggest you have a look for yourself and see if there's anything that you like. But I'm just going to show you, for example, I don't even know, let's say you want to use a sketch sort of feeling like this. You can do that. You can use some glitch as well. That was soundroll.io. Right, there's a bunch of different ones that you're just gonna have to play around with and see if there's anything that you like. And of course, if you see anything that you want to use, you just have to drag and drop it there on the timeline to apply it. Next, I want to show you a couple of elements that Filmora has. Again, go to this tab and explore everything because there's quite a lot of them. Let's say, for example, I don't know, let's just say you want to use this wow effect. It's very simple. You just drag and drop it and music tracks. So make sure to check it out. And there it is. Super, super useful. Has a bunch of different ones that you can use in various different situations. Obviously, we don't have time to cover them all. It's going to take forever, but just know there's quite a lot of them. And the last part here is called the split screen, which I'm just going to briefly cover. This is again very advanced. But if you want to do some sort of, split screen between a bunch of different videos, you can use those layout templates right here. All right, so when it's all said and done and you've finished editing your project, it's time to export it and share it with the world. To do that, you have to click this green button right here, and you will have to use a couple of settings. Filmora is actually pretty good at offering you a bunch of different settings, but in most cases, I suggest you just go with MOV if you're on a Mac, or if you're on a Windows, just go with MP4. It's gonna be super good. And of course, you have to give your video a file name. You can select where you want to save it on your computer. And then you can also change some of the settings, but this is pretty advanced and I suggest you don't touch it because in most situations, the default settings are gonna be good enough. You can also select a couple of presets depending on your device if you're exporting for a specific device, or if you're feeling adventurous, you can export and upload directly to YouTube or to Vimeo, and you can even burn to a DVD directly. Personally, I just like to export a simple file on my computer like this, and then when you're done, just click export. Now, this is going to actually take quite a while to export depending on your computer, on the complexity of your project and how many different effects you've been using and things like that. So if it takes a couple of minutes, maybe 10 minutes, maybe even more, depending on your edit, that's absolutely normal. All right, that was my Filmora X complete tutorial for beginners. I hope you liked it, and I hope now you will make your own videos and share them with the world. For more Filmora assets such as stock animation that will help you produce professionally looking animated videos directly in Filmora with drag and drop simplicity, make sure to visit videoplasty.com. Thank you so much for watching all the way to the end, I really appreciate it. If you enjoyed this video, it would be great if you could gently tap the like button and leave a comment. It really helps with the YouTube algorithm. And for more useful content in the world of video editing, video animation, starting and growing a YouTube channel, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss out. I'm Edward Stinger from videoplasty.com. To keep up with what I'm doing and say hi, you can follow me on Instagram as well at Edward Stinger. Alright, I hope you enjoyed this video and I'll see you in the next one.